Hi, I'm Raymond Claremont, aka the Psychic Scientist, and I've got something important to talk to you about today. So, a lot of people talk about good and evil. Sometimes they talk about it as being symbolized by darkness and light. I do believe in darkness and light, but I also believe in black pigment and white pigment. And I also believe in the spectrum of time that goes from beginning to end. But that is part of the reason I personally feel that good and evil are really just made up concepts, or rather, oversimplified concepts to keep us fighting on a one-dimensional scale that's two-sided. Right? One dimension is just from here to here. It's a single line. I feel like this construct of good versus evil exists to keep us fighting because good always has to fight evil. And it's true that we should avoid wrongdoings and bad deeds. But is there really a such thing as evil? Is there really something so sinister that it can measure up to what's called evil, like a sinister for the sake of sinister? And maybe the universe does have its holy and unholy aspects. I'm not saying it doesn't. I'm just saying it's oversimplified into two sides. So, to me, there's actually 6 sides in the center, so there's 7 things that primarily make up the universe. But I'm not going to get into all that explanation about what in particular those things are, at least not yet. What I want to talk to you about is what I think is the real problem. I don't know how we should address it yet, but maybe I'll figure it out as this video goes on. So, to me, the real problem isn't this imaginary, overbearing evil force, or even necessarily the actual bad things that are trying to break us down and annihilate us, except for death. For me, the problem is death. People act like death is a natural part of life, and it's supposed to happen, and there's no avoiding it, but that's because we don't really know how to deal with death. We don't know how to avoid death. And those of us that believe they've discovered a way to avoid death, usually the price for avoiding that death is so high no one would want to pay to be actually better to die. I'm referring to, in that case, like very bad magic. Like things like, the mythological and non-mythological versions of like vampirism or whatever you'd call it, or like being a zombie if you believe in that stuff. But I mean, to me that's not even life. That's just another form of death, but you can move around. And it's probably fictitious. Let's hope so anyway. So, what I'm trying to get at is life, right? We're not talking about undeath or being some kind of walking corpse. That's fucked up. No, I'm saying like life. Like at the beginning of time, life started. At the end of time, there'll be no life left. And that's coming, right? Whether we're close to the end of time or we're not, someday it's going to happen. There's only so much potential that can be used up in life and in the universe and in reality. And when everything's expired, that'll be it. There'll be no potential left to be used unless we can find a way to conserve it while it's still alive. And I guess that's the issue that I was trying to get to, is how can we create infinite sustainability, right? Even if it's not necessarily me or you that lives forever, how do we make the future so that the eventual conclusion of all the universe never totally happens? How do we stop from running in... Oh, sorry, I'm moving my hand out here. How do we stop from running into that wall at the end of time and crashing into it and getting smashed, right? Maybe we can make a doorway so that, at the end of time, we can avoid being smushed by that, the fact that everything's just coming down. Everything started to fall, right? It's been falling since the moment you're born. Some people say since the moment you're born, you begin dying. I think that's a little bit overly morbid, but typically the path of life is looked at as the path to death. And maybe that's for a very good reason, but as we know, we don't always have to go with the grain. We don't always have to follow suit. It's better to walk alone than it is to walk with a crowd going in the wrong direction. And I don't like to get biblical because I don't believe in the Bible, but the Bible does say that the road to hell is very wide and that many people travel it, whereas the road to heaven is very narrow and very few actually go down it. Just for reference sake, because I'm not sure what else to reference at this point. But very difficult issue. But let's say we wanted to avoid death. Now, I personally believe that death and life are one of the three dimensions of reality, that it begins with birth or origin and ends with death or conclusion, and that the origin is chaos and the conclusion is order. I also believe there are sides on this side, right, and that this one over here would be like healing and white pigment, and this over here would be like damage and black pigment. Not making it a race thing. Damage is just as important as healing. Don't you turn my words into saying one's evil, because I didn't say that. Now, I believe that if something can't be damaged, that's actually a bad thing, because it's very necessary for violence to exist and for damage to exist. And I'm not talking about the pigment of people's skin either, because my skin, even though it's kind of mid-toned, let's go by this pigment actually, because this is white. This is black. I'm not talking about different shades of brown here, okay? So, or beige for that matter, or pink, or anything, any kind of human skin tone, nothing like that. And we all have white and black in our eye, right? So, there's that. No, what I'm referring to is like the difference between shadow and light and black pigment and white pigment, right? If I go like this, my face gets darker. Sure, on the screen you can't tell the difference between black and white, but I mean like... Sorry, can't tell the difference between black and dark on the screen because it's all darkness and light on the screen. It's not real pigment. But see, like white, if you hold it in shadow, can even become dark. It doesn't turn black. It gets dark. So white can be dark and black can be dark. And black can be light and black can be dark. Let's keep that in mind. So that's the second of three spectrums. Then we have to worry about also the third, because there are three dimensions. Our third dimension goes this way, from light to darkness. One is far in the back, the other one's up in the front. So you have three dimensions, right? Got a left and right, a backward and forward, and an up and down. Today, I'm primarily concerned with the up and down. Now, I believe that the spectrum that we think is good and evil is mostly excluded to the dark and light. And then black and white is neutral. There's no good or evil in black and white. They're both on both scales the whole time. They both maintain the center of good and evil because they are aligned with the middle on that spectrum. Now, the up and down, we got a time limit on that, right? It's constantly ticking down until we run out of time. What do we do about that? Right? The time's not going to just stop. Well, there's an infinity, isn't there? There's a symbol that looks like a figure 8, right? Almost like two circles, not quite, but almost like two circles together, right? that repeats and repeats and repeats. Here, let me draw something for you. Perhaps some visual examples will help. I'm going to find a blank page. Okay, so let me show you something really super interesting. I'm going to try to draw this way with the paper facing you, but it might be too difficult. We'll see. Okay, so the symbol for black pigment is a curved line like that. And the symbol for white pigment is a pointed line like that. Now, if we put those two together, right, there are two blacks. Then we do two whites. I kind of messed it up a little bit. It's hard to draw upside down. But we get a figure 8. I'll draw a better one for you. See? Now normally we draw that a little neater. Like this right here. Right? But as you can see, that is constructed out of a pointed line and a curved line, 2 of each. And we get a figure 8. So what does that mean? Well, it means that one, if not several different balances, don't have to run out, ever. Now, what's the price of that not running out, right? That seems to be like an infinite sequence. There's a problem with it, right? It doesn't, it has a repetition. It's monotonous, it's the same, it's unchanging. So is this one, right? Now, where the figure 8 represents infinity, the circle represents eternity. It's a hoop that doesn't change. It's the same consistently, right? So something that's eternal never fades, and something that's infinite never stops. So, is it that simple, right? I mean, let's see. The figure 8, I'll write on here. The figure 8 is a symbol of lightning, and the circle is a symbol of water. Now, there are many other elements, and these two aren't even that closely related in terms of where they fall on the scale, because lightning is on that black and white spectrum, and water is on that dark and light spectrum. So, why? Why, what, where, when, how, and even who? All questions, very few answers. How and why, and for what reason would we want everything, or a particular thing, let's not even say everything, because we don't want everything to last forever. Why would we want the best things in life to last forever, and how would we do that? Now, these loops, right, are both loops. Regardless, either one of them is overly consistent, but that's what's required in order to produce infinity, is consistency, right? It doesn't fade, it doesn't wear out, it stays primarily the same. Now, this is a 2-part cycle, and this is a 1-part cycle. This one seems more appealing to me, but I'm thinking, if we wanted these to last, but we don't want them to get old, they gotta be augmented somehow, you know? Like, just looking at them as I think I'll do the same thing forever. That doesn't seem appealing. I'd almost rather die. Almost. But I never want to die. Let's see. Should have some more room in this book. Here we go. There's lots. I'll just use this page because it's blank. So, how do we augment something like that, right? We gotta take it, think about it reasonably. Maybe logically, maybe not, but definitely reasonably. So, there's a degree of practicality and maybe even a tiny pinch of idealism that has to go into this. I hate practicality, but it does work. So, I mean, we could take a circle and we could put healing in it and it lasts longer, right? Maybe. We could take a circle and we could put, I don't know. Let's see. This marker's two-sided. We could put like a symbol for magic. Pentagram is a symbol for magic, not Satan. Believe what you want. But I don't believe in your superstitious books. And that little symbol that's inside it looks like a number 4. Is astrological sign for Jupiter, but it also makes it like a holy symbol. But this is just an example. I'm not even getting to the point yet. So largely this here is me looking at the situation and saying, well, how do we augment it? Are we going to put a holy magic symbol? Are we going to put a healing symbol? I don't know. But what would actually make it right? The thing I would like to discuss with myself in this video, I guess, since you can't actually answer me back, by asking myself questions and kind of pretending like you can hear me, gives me the idea that I'm not conversing, but, say, interacting with you. And if I was going to talk to you like you were right here, what would I have to say to you? So, I suppose at this point, and I have to be real with you, and I have to be real with myself, otherwise it's all going to go to hell. Almost, literally. Hades, anyway. What would be the right way to avoid that? Right? We want something that stops us from ever getting to the bottom, but doesn't have to actually be a loop. It doesn't actually. Maybe there should be loops in it, but that's not actually necessary. Something doesn't have to be an infinite repetition in order to save us from death. There's probably a lot of answers, like maybe an infinite amount of healing could save us from death or something, or just a very large amount of healing. There is a state of being healed or cured that is beyond being damaged or made ill. There's also a state of illness that is beyond being able to be cured or healed. So, those are all issues. So, very difficult the topic of immortality or everlastingness to come across. So, let me work this out for a minute. Just chill. We'll be fine. I know what I'm doing. Just trying to do page. Concept of forever. Everything needs to be sustained. There'd have to be an infinite amount of food, infinite amount of clean, drinkable moisture, which means certain aquatic life must be saved, and there must be some kind of cycle. There must be some sort of refreshing action, and there would also have to be something where waste goes, right? You can't contain the waste in the same place as the good stuff, and that waste would have to be able to be recycled. You'd have to be able to take that waste and make it new again. So how can we do that? Maybe if we didn't waste it. Let's see. So, okay, I'm thinking the basis of this is infinity. Either way, because there's no way around it. So I'll start with that. then we'll add more. So, infinite cycle. I want it to be exclusive. Maybe even universal so that anyone can. Let's go exclusive. Let's see. What's missing from this? This is an infinity. But what is it that we want to be infinite? Plants grow, and they don't need much else besides water, depending on the plant. Everything needs water. That's something. This may seem confusing at first. I'll try to break it down. First, let me look at it for a minute. Okay, this here is the survival cycle, and this here is the waste management cycle. Two sides. Now, if you look very, very closely, those two images are different. This pentagram has a circle here, and this pentagram has another smaller pentagram on the point, not in the center. And it's facing up the same way that this one is facing up, even though it's on the side point, not the top point. Very, very specific. So, this cycle brings in clean, fresh water and rotates it and rotates it and rotates it, but also exerts any force that causes excess stagnation, reliquating it. Is it reliquating? Delegating it to this cycle. So, once said water becomes stagnant or rotten, it'll be delegated to this cycle here, where it is then cleansed by having its impurities removed. Now, those impurities will not be disposed of. No. We can't afford to lose anything in an infinite cycle. It's a perpetual motion. You can't die, it can't stop. So what will happen to the impurities is it become mud or crap or shit or compost, just like a farmer makes manure. Oh, sorry, makes manure. A farmer uses manure as compost in the same way all the waste products that are collected from here will be delegated into an area that composts them, lets them fully ferment and fully become muck so they can be fed back to plants on this side, and they will go to the ground and become one with the soil on this side. And then the plants will then eat that garbage, and it will help them grow just like how plants normally eat manure that's fertilizer to help it grow. And then we feed those vegetables that grow out of that to the cows and pigs and ducks and whatever we decide to eat, and then we eat both the cows and pigs and ducks, etc. And we also eat some of the vegetables. And we maintain the clean water on this side, in this reliquary or whatever. What would you call that? This designated area, for lack of a better word. And that will be our source of clean water. So we just need one side for keeping everything fresh and growing it, and one side for handling all the waste. And never the twain shall meet. They'll never become one. So if there's any bonus information I can give you on this, it's basically that this is the happy and fun side we all live on, and this is the bad and nasty side where we have to separate everything and process it. I know it doesn't look like much, but I gave you the best explanation I could. If you can come up with a better idea, go ahead. But I mean, don't think of just the drawing as being all that important. Think of what I said. We need to manage the waste, compost it, and then use that composted energy to continually grow what we have. And then you know what? Eventually all that stuff that we eat on this side and drink is going to get shit and pissed out, go right back into the compost. And the compost is going to go right back to the plants. And the plants will process it so we can eat it and shit it out again. And it just keeps going. So, even if you don't agree with me, you probably get what I'm saying. And even if this isn't the ultimate master plan to solve everything, which it probably isn't, but it just might be, at least now you can get what I'm saying, that death never has to come, but it usually does. And it's because we don't sustain ourselves well enough. Anyway, back to the main issue. So, I've shown you, whether you believe in it or not, an example of how death could be avoided. Or how, rather, the entire death of the whole universe could be avoided. Or how we could stop from running out of resources and eventually plummeting into ultimate doom. Just by, composting and reusing our resources. But death is very real and very powerful. And if you submit yourself to death, then you're asking to expire. And I guess the real point of this video is, I think you shouldn't give up that easily because there are other ways. And I also think that death is optional. If not for the individual, then certainly for the lifespan of the entire everything. And it would probably be a small group that would be able to be supported infinitely. You wouldn't be able to cycle everything together because there's too many toxic or radioactive elements in the universe. But I mean, it is possible to conserve or preserve something forever. It just has to be done right. And giving up and just letting the natural process take hold is not going to do it. So, is good and evil an issue? I think so. But is it the real main issue? I think that's to distract us from what's really the problem. I think we have been thought of as expendable for too long, and we should take value in one another and in our own selves, and accept that we're here for a reason, and that reason and purpose doesn't have to just end or fade or be over with or be thrown away, and that there doesn't have to be an end to our lives or an end to all things. We can live as long as we like, or at least the universe can last as long as we want, if we want it bad enough. I'm a psychic scientist. Nice talking to you.